What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the G Show podcast. I am G1, and this is the Batman spoiler review. Look, I'm Batman Mark. I've been a Batman Mark all my life. This movie crazy, but that's just my quick 2 cents. Joining me, as always, when we do these reviews, is my brother from another mother, the man who helped me start the G Show podcast while talking about DC movies, G95, aka Matt. What's up, brother?
Thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
Yeah, man. Listen, Batman came out just yesterday. I mean, we all saw it Thursday, though. Unless you went to a Wednesday screening.
I saw it on Tuesday.
You saw the fuck? Wow! What?
Theater about half an hour away was playing it in IMAX on Tuesday. They're doing like a special early screening. My buddy snagged some tickets and I got a pretty good spot.
Nice. That must have been like a super screener, man, because usually like Wednesday over here was like the early show, and then Thursday was like the, advanced previews, and Friday the movie's open. That's crazy.
They had some like extra like promotional shit. They gave us like I think like a special edition issue of the first issue of The Long Halloween.
Oh, nice.
They had like a little intro thing with most of the main cast just talking about like how like we're some of the first fans to see the movie so far. They had like a special like QR code for an NFT or something like that. I don't care about any of that, so I didn't look into it. But yeah, it was pretty sick.
Nice.
And so I've had to hold my tongue all fucking week.
that must have been crazy, considering you were sitting on this movie for a whole week. That's nuts. Mm-hmm. No, that's cool that you got to do that, man. I remember Star Wars Episode 3. That was the best thing ever. Did the same shit. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Batman, the movie, break it down. There's going to be some spoilers. And, and then we're going to give our takes, our scores based on it. So I'm going to let you go first because you've seen the movie first, and I know you want to get it out. So get it out there.
Oh, man. Well, I'm horribly unprepared, as usual. But I fucking loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. It was the dark and gritty and angry and noir-esque Batman movie that I've always wanted to see. It is like the Batman movie that I've always wanted to see. It's like I said, it's dark, it's moody, it has that, it really leans into the neo-noir aspect. Gotham is just disgusting. Batman is at, like, this height of being pissed off. He looks fucking intimidating. The villains are really good. It really does a good job of showing the dynamic and friendship, and relationship with him and Gordon, and, I really liked the dynamic with him and Catwoman. We can get into like more of those nuances in a little bit. But like it was funny without being too over the top. It was definitely like there were some parts that are like kind of chilling, a little scary, a little disturbing, a little unnerving. Like that's shit that I always wanted to see. It's fantastic. I don't know. We can get it. Like I don't want to gush too much or overextend myself too early.
So let me ask you this then. Before seeing the movie, going in, did you have any trepidations about it? Were you kind of on edge, or were you like, oh no, everything I've seen so far has got me hooked?
Not at all. I was so excited.
Okay.
I was so looking forward to the movie. How about you?
I was the same way. I stopped watching anything. I was like, I don't want to watch anything else. I've seen what I need to see. My ticket's already bought. And yeah, same, man. I went into that theater, and just the opening sequence alone, the music playing, everything, it just felt like off. And then all of a sudden it was just on. and everything just starts falling into place and making sense. And same with like you, the characters, pitch perfect. They were perfect. Perfect iterations of the villains. Perfect iterations. Batman was. First off, Robert Pattinson, he's a great actor. Twilight stuff aside, dude is good. Dude is real good. He's my Batman. He's my Batman. Like, I love Affleck. I like Christian Bale. Michael Keaton is still the guy, you know. But Robert Pattinson, he made this role his. I haven't seen. I think maybe Affleck was doing it, but Affleck was also doing the older Bruce. But I haven't seen not one Batman actor yet embody Batman the way Robert Pattinson embodied Batman. Like you said, he's like the angriest he's been. He's at his peak of anger.
He's so lost in it that there is no, like, a lot of other people have pointed this out, and but like Bruce Wayne isn't really a character. Like, it's Batman. Like, he spends most of the movie in the suit. When he's only going out to public appearances to basically like be undercover. Like, we should probably like either do a spoiler or a non-spoiler section, or just
no. This is all spoilers. We're going in. This is all spoilers.
Okay. All right. Good. Spoiler warning then. Yeah. Like he does the detective work. He's fucking pissed off. Like, I always, in a lot of ways, I've always, like, I see this as like an inverse of the early seasons of Batman the Animated Series. Like, you know, I know they're like in those early seasons, it's a little bit more aimed at kids. They're still playing around with what they could do, what the networks would get away with, let them get away with. And it was the early '90s, so cartoons were different. But Batman was like a lot more innocent. Like, he was kind of joking around a little bit with like the Joker. He was pulling his punches a little bit more. And I've always like seen that iteration of Batman, especially with the way the DC animated universe kind of went, was he started off as like pulling his punches a little bit more, being more hopeful and optimistic, and then slowly getting more jaded into, you know, then we get into like Batman Beyond and like their kind of take on the Dark Knight Returns and stuff. Whereas this is completely the opposite. It's he is just furious. He is just furious at the world. I like that he's like half the movie he's not even interested in really saving people. Yeah. Like, he's not even really interested in like necessarily helping people. He just wants to beat the shit out of people. I love that. It's he's so angry. I love it, because why wouldn't he be?
Yeah,
it's just a new, fresh take on it in a live action sense, at least.
Absolutely. What I loved about this movie too was they really utilized a lot of comic book lore, a lot, and and it really felt like in the beginning I was like, oh, this is a live action live action Long Halloween. I'm so down with that, right? But the movie takes place in 6 days. The entire movie is 6 days. That's fine. That's fine. No problem. But it just, as comic book fans, as people we've read Batman, we've read the books we need to read, there was a lot in there, and I loved that because, again, comic book fan. Little Easter egg, for instance, the bust in Wayne Manor, you know, like it's in every single Batman thing, but I always think of it from Adam West when they open the head, press the button, and go down into the Batcave. Just seeing things like that, I loved it. But again, like, characterizations, Batman himself, unbelievable. And you touched on something too that I want to just ape off of. You never seen Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Except like when he had to make a public appearance. But even when he was undercover and he didn't have the cowl on, he still had his eyes blacked out. Like, he still had the war paint on. And that was like, yeah, he's not Bruce Wayne. This dude's definitely not in his right mind. And I love that. I love that.
I love that he would take off the suit and like have like not necessarily like a disguise, but he'd just be like in like a hoodie with the hood pull up and like a baseball cap, or he has like a bike helmet on or something like that. He looks, for his like a lot of his detective work. I really love that they leaned into the detective work side of things, and I like the idea that he's like carrying around all this shit like in a duffel bag that's just like on his person that he's just like stashing somewhere because it's kind of the, it's a nice little touch of like, the trope of a superhero wearing their suit underneath, like their business suit or their work clothes or whatever. Now, and that's something that's kind of been gone from comic book movies in a while, because either the characters are like so armored that they can't possibly just like, stash that stuff with them, or it's like they use magic to put on the suit, or it's all fucking nanotech and it just like materializes over them. It's so nice to see something a little bit different.
Right, agreed. One of the things this movie did really well, and I mean this is why I was like hook, line, and sinker, the relationships between the characters.
Yes.
Jim Gordon and Batman's relationship, I absolutely loved. What I really loved about this movie too is that it starts off and Batman's already Batman. It's been he's been doing it for 2 years. The news is talking about the masked vigilante running around. They know that there's a signal in the sky. This doesn't just happen. This has already happened. And I really love that. So the relationship between Batman and Jim Gordon, which by the way, this man was Jim Gordon. I
was just about to say, like, he is. Pattinson is your Batman. Jeffrey Wright is my Gordon.
Absolutely, he's and I love J.K. Simmons. The Dark Knight trilogy. Jim Gordon. Why can't I ever remember his name? One of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah, I'm blanking too.
Always do that. I'm always doing that.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Thank you. I love them. I love them both. Jeffrey Wright just fit. Like you made the animated series analogy. He felt like that Jim Gordon to me. Mm-hmm. He was just black.
Maybe a little bit less like exhausted than the animated series.
Absolutely.
But he's a younger cop. He's still a detective. He's not a commissioner yet.
Which is crazy too, because again, like the hierarchy is letting him put the signal on, is letting him deal with Batman. Like he's Batman's liaison. Mm-hmm. Even when Batman comes in and all the cops are like, what the hell is he doing here? But that relationship between the two was fantastic. There was no real animosity from Batman. He looked up to Jim Gordon. Even at the end, he says, you're a good cop.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so good. The chemistry on scene was perfect with them. I can't gush enough. Every character had their moment except for maybe Alfred. Alfred really kind of got left by the wayside.
I think I agree. I think the only like issue with casting, in my opinion, is like Andy Serkis may not like he does a great job. He's a phenomenal actor, but I don't know if he was necessarily Alfred, and he didn't really have much of a chance to shine in the movie or like show off his chops as Alfred. But I did like their relationship still a lot. It was very strained. It was very like he doesn't really approve. He wants Bruce to like either get help or get this out, but like he's still like
he's helping him decipher the riddles and shit.
Yeah, he's still doing the detective work with him. He's still giving him advice, even if their relationship is very strained right now. It's phenomenal because like if you raise someone and then they go down this really dark, dangerous, tragic path to where they're probably going to get themselves killed someday, like you wouldn't want that. You'd do everything in your power to discourage them.
Right.
So, and I love that.
No, yeah, that absolutely played well. Andy Serkis is only in the movie because Matt Reeves is his boy. Let's be for real here. Right? But even still, Andy Serkis, I thought he was good. He was great Alfred. He just didn't have enough screen time. That's fine. It doesn't affect anything. You're absolutely right. Alfred had his due in the Nolan movies with Michael Caine. Batman and Selena Kyle's relationship. Now here's the one thing, and I'm going to nitpick this. I love the cat suit, but I mean, and I get it, but it's just a ski mask. It's just a.
I like it. I like it.
It's so weird.
She's not a hero. She was never meant to get involved with this shit. She just wanted to like steal her friend's passport and get her out of there. And why wouldn't this poor girl living in this really shitty apartment have anything high tech? Like she has the leather suit, and she's using what she has. Like
no, she breaks out that whip. She breaks out that whip. She gets in. I'm like, whoa. It was very good. The training. They don't show the training, but her sequences. But no,
I've never been a big Catwoman person. Like Batman's and Catwoman's relationship and the comics is very well known. It's very sordid. It's very like they have this on again, off again issues thing. I've never really got it. Never been my thing. It's never like I've never like looked at Catwoman and be like, yeah, I can see why Batman would fall in love. Like just never done anything for me. But this like Zoe Kravitz's performance and like their dynamic in this, I was like, okay, I get it now. I finally get it. Like she fucking killed it.
She did. Them two on screen together. This is probably my favorite comic book movie where the relationship shines, and both actors just put in the work, and everything comes across believable. Nothing feels forced. And don't get me wrong, Tom Holland and Zendaya, they have a chemistry all their own, but they're also dating. You know, in real life, they work well with each other. This was just in the face of so much going on, the adversity, the Riddler, her mission, when he gives her the contact lenses to go and spy and find out, and her head is solely on finding her friend.
Mm-hmm.
I love, like all of that stuff was great. I was so in, and
like they were just using each other until that relationship actually like formed.
Exactly. It was great. It was
it's very well done.
And speaking of Catwoman, she's a villain. Well, not in this movie, but she's a villain. Let's talk about the villains. We have to start off with the Riddler, the main antagonist of this movie. I don't know who Paul Dano is. I'm going to be honest. If I seen him in a movie, I had no idea who he was. This dude, oh my God. This Riddler, while not the Riddler I always envisioned in my head for a live action, never going to get it, but it was always going to be something akin to Robin Williams in the bowler hat, like from Toys, you know? Mm-hmm. We're never going to get that. I'm fine with that. But this version of the Riddler worked so many ways because the way he was killing people, the riddles he was leaving, and that was, I think, my biggest concern with the movie going in. How are we going to do the riddles? Is it going to be corny? Is it going to be campy? Is it going to be deathly serious? Like, what are we going to get? And I feel like they found like this perfect baseline.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first riddle alone, I can't lie. Like you said, there were some funny moments. The first funny moment for me was thumb drive. I lost my mind. I couldn't stop laughing.
Okay.
It was great because it was like, yo, this dude is messed up in the head. So messed up that he actually made a joke there. That was great. Only a crazy psychotic would do something like that. I loved it. His performance was great. He was scary. I don't think he was Heath Ledger Joker scary, but I'm not trying to compare that like that. I'm just saying, like, Heath Ledger's Joker in a fight, I'd be fucking afraid of. I'd be like, oh, this dude's gonna anything, right? Whereas if I met like face to face Paul Dano's Riddler, okay, let's go. You know, let's I'm gonna test my skills. I'm gonna test my luck.
So I think that's like an interesting thing that you touched on is he's not like the Joker, like Heath Ledger's Joker, and that's such a nice touch that he's probably like he's equally as crazy and equally as depraved, but it's portrayed in a completely different way.
Yes.
He is very scary. Like that mask is fucking terrifying. Like his videos that he was sending out to the news are like really creepy. The things he was doing to kill people are like the mousetrap one is like fucking gross. Yeah. And under that, like he's so. Paul Dano is a fantastic actor, and I've seen him in a couple things. You should really watch Prisoners if you've never seen that.
Never. Okay.
It's an exercise in stress and depression, but it's very good. But he's a phenomenal actor. He really killed it. Because he's so intimidating and so weird and so creepy and crazy. But once, you don't see his face until the very end of the movie. You don't really see him, like, in person, really, until, like, the end of the movie. And then he's just sitting in that coffee shop, and he's just, like, a dude. He's just, like, a really small, frail-looking dude. And, like, that's what makes him even scarier. Is under that, like, somebody that small and seemingly, like, weak is that messed up. And, I will gush that, like, it's so cool that they were able to take a character like the Riddler, who really, by no means is, like, an A-list villain.
Right.
I mean, he's really well known, and he's had a few good moments in some of the comics, namely, like, Hush, which was obviously a big influence on this movie. Yeah. But he's never, like, I can't imagine that, like, in the comics, even Batman takes him too seriously. But Batman takes him fucking seriously in this. He is a force to be reckoned with. And I do love, maybe he was a little on the nose with, like, the Seven comparison, like the John Doe in his apartment.
Right.
Maybe like a little too on the nose, like, but it was still cool. Like, I like seeing that stuff. It's such a cool, like, set piece. But I like when they're looking through his journals, they're reading, and he was talking about, like, in his journal, it was saying, like, the moment where it finally clicked to him, like, he realized, like, his destiny or what he needed to do, and then they flip the page, and it's just immediately all just ciphers.
Yeah.
Like, he really snapped that quick, and he went all in with it. Who knows how long he was planning all this shit, but, like, he just put himself entirely into it. It was very, very well done, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I thought that was genius also. And his performance, again, yeah. Like I said, I don't know who Paul Dano is, but damn it, I do now. And it was great. It's funny, only you're going to get this, but I told the fellas over at the Godzilla Block Party, I said, I'm watching this movie, and the Riddler in the mask with the glasses reminded me of Chase. With some of the way his head movements were, the way he talks, had the cadence of JR. But then when he was unmasked, looked like Andrew. I was like, holy smokes. I felt left out. I was like, where am I in this picture? But I digress. But like you said, he was, at the end, this super genius, this intellect, is just this frail dude who you could see on Jeopardy making mega millions, and his reasoning, the whole, I do like that. The whole, we're orphans. This renewal project was supposed to give to us. Then the Waynes get murdered. And now, Bruce Wayne's an orphan. And it's all about him. Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne. And it's not about us. It's not about me anymore. And I kind of dug that because that actually, that does get a kid riled up.
Yeah.
That will make a kid go crazy a bit when, especially in today's day and age, like the way things are in the world in general. I thought it was like a perfect story note.
Well, I think a couple things I want to touch on quickly are in the prequel novel that's on, like, Audible, which I haven't read. Just a buddy of mine was reading it, and he told me, excuse me, a little bit about it. And he said there's a flashback to when they were both kids, and Bruce was visiting that orphanage and just trying to like be nice. He like saw Edward and looked at him and smiled, and then the next chapter, I guess it switches perspectives into Edward's perspective, and he like sees Bruce Wayne smiling at him, and he's like in his like thought bubble or whatever. He says like, "Well, that son of a bitch was like sneering at me." Like just a nice little, difference of perspectives, difference of. I like that it kind of carries over some of the themes of Joker of like fuck rich people, because fuck rich people, like
yes, I get it.
Fuck all the corruption, fuck all that, fuck billionaires, fuck all of that. Like it's a nice. He's a sympathetic villain to an extent with how crazy he is. And going back to relationships, I mean, I loved Riddler's and Batman's relationship. Even like you didn't realize that they had one until their relationship has been part of Riddler's plan the whole time.
Right.
Which like seeing Bruce or Batman realize like, oh fuck, like I did everything that he wanted me to do, and Riddler thinks that they're in this together. Like the like he's just so lost and so nuts that like he thought they were like doing this together in a sense. Like even makes the analogy of like I'm the brains and like you're the muscle or something to that effect.
Yep.
And obviously like his whole thing, Batman's whole thing in the movie is that he's vengeance. And I love that moment at the end where he kicks that dude's ass who's working for the Riddler, and I think it was Catwoman who asked like who are you? And he's like this guy just laying on the ground who's about to slaughter a stadium full of people says I'm vengeance, and like that look that's on Batman's face of like, oh my god, like realizing like I've been doing this wrong.
Not only that, but he realized who that guy was. That guy was in the church when Bruce Wayne went to the funeral for the mayor.
Oh, was he?
Yep. That was the same guy.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
He was the guy that was kind of like just angry at the whole thing. He's like, nothing changes. They don't care about us. Sure. So, yeah, that's why I dug the shit out of that. When he sees that in the realization, and then the whole thing with the vengeance.
Mm-hmm. It's such a nice touch to like, this is such a pissed off, angry Batman. Like I said, like, in the opening scene when he kicks the shit out of that gang, he doesn't even do anything to help the guy that they were mugging.
Nope.
Like, he just, like, looks at him and just leaves.
Yep.
Like, or when he's chasing down the Penguin, and the Penguin, like, inadvertently probably kills, like, 100 people on that highway. Batman doesn't care. He's not interested in that. He just wants...
It's the mission. Penguin. It's just the mission.
Just the mission. And him realizing at the end of the movie, like, seeing that development of, like, I can't be like this. I have to do this. This isn't about vengeance. This is about, like, the people.
Yep.
And seeing how his actions are affecting people. Like, that is such a brilliant, like, well done character development that we're going to get a sequel. It's just, like, you fucking have to.
Have to.
And it's going to be so cool to see, like, watch him, like, come out of that darkness as much as Batman can come out of that darkness.
Absolutely. Speaking of the Penguin, Colin Farrell, my God.
Killed it.
Dude, killed it. This is by far the greatest iteration of the Penguin, period. That's not to take nothing away from Burgess Meredith, nothing to take away from Danny DeVito, nothing to take away from the Arkham games. This is the Penguin. I love the look. He doesn't have to look like a penguin, but there's a resemblance. He looks like a bird. Yes, everything. They absolutely nailed it. They absolutely nailed the look.
One of my favorite little touches was when Batman and Gordon had him tied up, and they just left him, and he was like, "Are you gonna untie me?" And he kind of is like waddling like a penguin.
Yes.
That's some of the like really well executed comedy in there, like that or the thumb drive.
Yeah,
shit was funny, but yeah, no, Colin Farrell was amazing in it. He was just so gross and disgusting, and he really killed it. Like this seeing this mob boss on the rise, like his sort of like ascent to power with all the shit that he did, like or was planning on doing and will do in the future, and he gets off. Like he's at the end of the movie, he's out there now, basically in charge of the Falcone family.
Yeah, and I would love to see something where it all comes down to the Penguin. The Penguin is the crime boss of Gotham. I love that idea, being the Kingpin. And speaking of crime bosses, I had no idea John Turturro was in this movie. Zero. I did not know. And when John Turturro pops up as Carmine Falcone, I said, stop the press. What the fuck? This dude killed it. Killed it. I absolutely loved it. As I'm watching this movie, and whenever he's on the screen as Carmine, all I can think of was The Long Halloween.
Yeah.
That's all I can think about. And I was just like, this man is good. Yo. I always liked John Turturro. I really did. Again, I had no idea he was in this movie. So seeing him in this movie, playing Carmine Falcone, doing it, like, oh my God. It is a testament to him. It's a testament to Matt Reeves, who gets these characters. Matt Reeves gets these characters. And just everything. I mean, I was like leaning over to my daughter and I was telling her, I'm like, the dialogue, the first dialogue between him and Selina Kyle. Oh no, him and Batman, her and Batman. And she was just like, she doesn't want to be bothered. She don't want to see him, whatever the case may have been. And I was like, in the comic books, that's because Carmine Falcone is her father. And then they played off on it and they did it. They went there and I was like, oh, nice. All of that. I was so thankful to see all of that play out in live action. And the way it did.
One of the I completely agree with you. And one of the touches like that was so good about Turturro's performance was that like even in the face of Batman, of danger, of getting arrested, of having his whole world coming down, he's not afraid. He doesn't care. He's that powerful and he's that convinced that he's going to come out on top no matter what. It's like kind of chilling. Like that's, I assume, like a lot of how those real like mafia guys probably are or were, like,
yeah,
like that just cold, absolutely psychopathic demeanor of just like, doesn't matter. Just like you can't do anything to me. I'm on top. It's like kind of chilling. Like the real life mafia stuff or gang stuff is like kind of scary because it's like so not necessarily dehumanizing, but it feels so like those people feel so disattached to human life,
right?
And that's what makes it scary.
And the crazy thing is like the juxtaposition of, let's say, Carmine Falcone and the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, is so different. Mm-hmm. Carmine Falcone has no problems being the mayor undercover, whereas Wilson Fisk wants the power.
Yeah, he wants the name recognition.
And I love that. And you know, when you look at the two sides, Wilson Fisk has Daredevil as a nemesis. Spider-Man goes after him every now and then. The Punisher hates him. Superman never goes after Carmine Falcone.
Yeah.
Flash never goes after Carmine Falcone. That's a Batman thing. It's a Gotham. That dude is content with running Gotham and Gotham only. It's fine. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And I felt like that absolutely played out the way you said it too. He didn't care. He knew. He was like, I got nothing to worry about. You think you got something on me? You got nothing. And I loved it. You were right. And the only way to take somebody out like that, to put him away for good, is to kill him. Mm-hmm. And that was the great thing. Just bring the rat into the light and I'll reveal myself. Like, the riddles were great. The riddles were great. The detective work was great. If there was one thing I was like, come on, Batman, you should have got that. You're a detective, right? It's the whole Selina Kyle thing when that one time where she was like, she's not going to talk to him or not going to deal with him. He should have put something together. He should have thought about it, but he didn't. And again, really wasn't a big deal for him at that point in time. That was a Selina Kyle thing.
My contention to that is that that was like, why would Batman necessarily care about her? Like, he's obviously observant of all the situations around him, but like, I don't think he cared. Like, he's so at that point in the movie, he's still so detached from like the people around him. Like, he doesn't
Exactly. No, I totally get that, and that's where I'm coming from. Because it's like to try to separate, my expectations from Batman, which is like the know-it-all. He gets everything right the first time. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to, a Ray, for instance, in Star Wars, where everything just goes right. That's something that's like a personal thing. It's like, oh, come on, Batman, you should have realized, because eventually you're gonna have to try to come to that bridge and then try to figure out, all right, what's a way that I can manipulate this to my advantage and such and so. But I absolutely understand what you're saying, because that's absolutely what the movie was giving us.
Well, I also love that one, they, like we've touched on, really lean into the detective work thing. It's not just like one scene. One of my complaints of the Dark Knight trilogy is like Alfred does more detective work or has more realizations about the villains than Batman does. Like, he's kind of like more wise than Bruce in that movie and in those movies, and to a sense he is. But like, the detective work is Batman shtick. Like, leave it to Batman. And it's like they don't just kind of shrug it off. It's like they really lean into it. Like, this is a movie about an investigation. Batman makes mistakes. He needs help. He like gets some things wrong, but he's also like obviously brilliant. Like, he knows what he's doing. It was such a cool touch. And to step away from that, can we talk about the fighting, like the fight scenes? Because
you're reading my mind. You must be a telekinesis person. You telepath. You're reading my mind, Professor X. Yes, please, let's do that.
Because they were, save for the warehouse scene in BVS, they are the best Batman fight scenes ever. They're so fluid. It feels like the Arkham games. It really does feel like the Arkham games.
That's where I was going. It was the Arkham games. They took that and they put that on screen. Now, I told my buddy this.
Not just for one scene, but like, it was
exactly
the whole movie. He's kicking ass.
Yeah,
really.
And that was the thing too, because I was like, one of the things I was worried about was, are we just going to get that one scene we see in the trailer?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that. Like you said, the intro is him taking out the whole gang of thugs. That's Arkham. That's Arkham style fighting.
And getting his ass kicked a little bit too.
And getting his ass kicked. Going into the club. Taking out the thugs in the club. That was fantastic. Every time he was fighting, I was in love. But it wasn't just him. It was also Catwoman.
Yeah.
That literally was straight out of the Arkham games. I'm watching the way she was moving on screen and I'm like, oh my God. That's the way, that's exactly how you play with her in Arkham City. That's exactly how you the combo, like, I'm sitting there and my fingers are twitching, pressing the combos for the buttons. It was fantastic. It was flawless. It was well done. It was everything. Like I told my buddy, it was the warehouse scene times 10.
Mm-hmm.
It really was.
It's so. Admittedly, I still think Affleck is for the time being my Batman, just because I love his physicality. I loved the way he looked. I loved the suit. I loved his difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne. Like Ben Affleck in that suit as in both suits as Bruce Wayne and Batman looks like Batman from the animated series. It's perfect. But Pattinson killed it. I love the bat suit in this. The only thing I don't like is that the mouth hole, like the cheeks, kind of come back too far, and it exposes like too much of his kind of his jawline, but the mask just like comes back too far. I think like the mouth hole should have been a little bit smaller, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
Only design flaw. I liked that he had, like, they really lean into the fact that he's wearing the eye black. That I like to think that the contact lenses also like maybe change his eye color a little bit, possibly. It was kind of hard to tell because it's a pretty dark movie. I loved how heavy his like every time he like walked anywhere, it's just like so fucking
Yes.
ominous because like the boots just sound so heavy.
Yes.
Um,
It was
and
almost like it almost had like a like let's say when the Mandalorian's walking, it almost had like a cowboy
mhm,
clang to it. It sounded like he had spurs on,
yeah,
and it's just his belt. I agree with the suit. I loved it. The suit reminded me of Arkham Origins.
yeah, yeah. It's very
The gauntlets,
yeah,
they were ridiculously big. I was like, my God. And I loved it. I mean, I absolutely loved it. I ate all that shit up. That suit design was awesome. I totally get what you're saying about the mouth hole. I definitely see that. I agree with that a bit.
I love that it's so it for the most part feels like so handmade. Like his cowl is like leather. It has like leather stitching and stuff. I love that his belt is like a repurposed like police or security belt. I love that his grappling gun is on like a drop holster on his leg. Like it's so the suit is so good.
It really
I,
is.
I was a little hesitant at first. I didn't really like the way the cowl looks. I don't really like that it's kind of like a pop collar, like between the cowl and the cape. It's kind of like Batman Noel esque.
It's Batman Noel. It's more Batman 666, where it was like the future version and Damian was Batman and he had the collar. I kind of dug it. I can't lie.
It won me over time.
It's like it was very noirish. It was like very trench coat detective. You know, like I dug it.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So let me ask you this: standout scenes. I mean, I know you love the movie, but what were some of them scenes that just stood out? Whether it was an action scene, a psychological scene. What were some of the things that popped out for you?
I was super captivated with every time the Riddler was on screen. It wasn't really a whole lot of scenes, but I do love all the Batcave stuff. I love that the Batcave is just like at this time just a decommissioned subway station.
Yep.
So cool. And then of course the Batmobile chase. Perfection.
Yeah.
That thing was fucking scary.
Yeah. That thing,
like I love that it like when he's turning it on, it like literally screams.
It screams. Oh yes. Oh shit, dude. So the trailers, and even like when they showed the still images of what the Batman, it did not do nothing. It's okay. It's a fucking Charger. It's a souped up Charger. No. Watch that son of a bitch in action. When he revs that thing up for the first time, the scream. It was a scream. I loved it. I compare two sequences. That's one of them, and the police station sequence. I have to compare them to Nolan movies, right? So we had the tumbler chase in Batman Begins. Yeah, Batman Begins. That was cool. It really was. I love that. It still holds up. This was better. This was something completely different. I loved Matt Reeves' shot selections. I loved the way he placed the camera in that sequence. That was great. And then the police station. When the cops was trying to, like, one cop said, all right, enough of this shit. And he grabbed him and he just, like, shoved him off and was like, who's next? I love that. Like, Batman gave no fucks. And there's Gordon trying to play peacemaker. And, like, yo, stop. And he's surrounded by, like, 50 fucking cops. And he's like, stop. What the fuck? Like, he's, like, yelling at Batman. He's punching him in the chest. He's like, you need to stop. Those things, man, that was, like, my favorite part of the entire movie. I can't even lie.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
I love that Batman.
So
like they're like, we're gonna hold you on like assaulting an officer. He's like, I'll be assaulting 4 or something like that.
Yeah, it's so good. And then when he was like, just give me a minute with him, give me a minute, and then the whole, all right, I'm gonna let you go. Take the keys on the belt. Like he was just giving him like all the information, like get out of here because I believe in you. and he's gonna hit. You could have pulled your punch. That was so good. It was so good.
I think
yeah.
My favorite part of that scene is like, oh, you could have pulled your punches. They should have let it breathe for like half a second because everybody misses like the second part because you're laughing at what Gordon says. You hear Batman say, "I did."
Yeah, it's so good. And then Batman, I love that grappling hook. By the way, it's like seriously, it's probably my favorite grappling hook in live action. I loved it, and just him flying up, and they show that part in the trailer, but him flying up the middle. It's like when Bale was flying down with all the bats surrounding him in the police station. Just the complete opposite. I absolutely loved it. And then he comes out on top. And this is where I kind of pause for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell? Because when he runs out onto the roof and he stops, he looked scared for a second.
Yeah.
He looked scared. And I'm like, wait a minute. And now all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, he's been on the ground this whole time. He's not flying or jumping across roofs. Maybe this is the first time he does it, or maybe he's done it before and is like, nah, I'd rather stay on the ground. That was a moment for me. I was like, oh, shit. And then, of course, he does what he does, and he crashes and burns. Mm-hmm. I lost it. I lost it. Not because it was a funny moment, but just because it's like, it's year 2. Batman would have made a mistake like that. That makes sense. Yeah. So
it was also hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Like, just watching him just eat shit like 3 times.
That's so not right, but yeah. I was like, my Batman wouldn't do that. He would know Carmine Falcone and Catwoman, his father and daughter. But again, I digress. Again, it was perfect for the movie, and it has no bearings on my score. Before we wrap this up, because, I mean, I think we covered all the bases.
I think we did, yeah.
We really didn't spoil much, which was great, but I'm gonna have to spoil this before we go. The cameo.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
I'm not sure yet. I'm really not sure yet. I think I have to see it a second time and let it sit, because when I'm thinking about the movie, I don't really think about it that much.
Okay.
Because I'm taking in so much other shit that I was blown away by. But I thought it was nice. It was a little, maybe standard.
Okay.
Like, we've seen those kind of cameos before in, like, Arrow, for example, to an extent.
Right.
Like a similar, like, setup kind of for the cameo. But I think overall, I think it was handled well. Like, I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it fits into this world really well.
Right. I loved it. And the cameo we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, spoiler review, of course, is the Joker. He's in Arkham Asylum already, which I loved. Which means Batman had a run-in with him. But before I jumped on this podcast, I watched an interview with Matt Reeves on IGN, and they talk about just that. And apparently, he had a scene that it's a deleted scene that's going to be released. He said it. They're going to release the scene where it's like the Killing Joke. Batman goes to Arkham to start talking to him because he's trying to understand the Riddler's psychosis.
Okay.
So he goes to talk to him. So there's a scene prior to it. The thing is, he's not the Joker we know just yet.
Yeah.
So then what he said, and I love this, was you had him fall into a vat of chemicals. You had him scar his face for reasons. He goes, but what they wanted to do was take it back to the origin and the inspiration for the Joker, the Man Who Laughs,
mm-hmm.
where it's a defect. It's a muscular defect where he's just constantly smiling. And as a kid, he goes, how would that affect the kid when people are always looking at him and he can't help but to smile regardless on how he feels. Whether he's sad and cry, the smile's always there, and that messes with him. I love that idea, and I'm like, yes, please, yes, give me more of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's coming from Matt Reeves himself, and that I thought was brilliant. The little bit you can see, you could see the smile, you can see greenish tint on the hair. That was probably the brightest part of the movie because that movie's dark as shit.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that. I think I'm probably gonna watch that like as soon as we get off.
Yeah, it's like a 6 minute, 7 minute clip.
Sure.
It's great.
That sounds pretty interesting. But yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I do like the idea because I was thinking while I was watching in the theaters, like this doesn't feel like the Joker yet. Like maybe,
Yes.
yeah, maybe he has had that run in with Batman now, but maybe he's not obsessed with Batman yet.
Right. And maybe the Riddler, talk to the Riddler because the Riddler is obsessed, puts a new thing, a new perspective on life for Mr. Joker. I thought it was great. I loved it. I'm a Joker mark though. I'm even wearing the Joker shirt. So yeah, that's where I stood. It was great. But all right then, I think we get into our scores now, huh?
Yeah, I think so. You first.
Okay. I'm going to put it in the form of a riddle. In the form of a riddle, I want to see if you get the riddle. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do it. There were a little bit of things. Again, it's long. I didn't mind it. I didn't have to pee because I couldn't finish my soda. I fucked my soda anyway. Long story short, I put too much cherry syrup in my Pepsi, so it turned into blood. I couldn't drink it. So I didn't have to pee. Every time I thought the movie was about to end, it didn't. I wasn't mad because I was enjoying it. So the length was a little bit, but now that I know what's coming, I could totally go back to the theater, sit down, and I know what's coming, and just now take it all in. You know, without worrying, is it going to end here? No. Is it going to end here? No. So I got that going for me. It was the perfect Batman. Like, again, they did the detective thing. We haven't seen it yet. I loved it. Like, we haven't seen it to that extent. Mm-hmm. And it works on every level. Matt Reeves, like I said, he really gets the characters. He really did. And it shows. It shows. I love the angsty Bruce Wayne, the very vengeful Batman. I love that it's about the mission and the mission only. He even tells Alfred, "You're not my father." You know? It's just, all of that shit is there. The Penguin, Falcone, the Riddler, Catwoman. Everybody plays their part. Commissioner Gordon plays their part and it's perfect. It's Oscar worthy. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's Oscar worthy, and I'm not talking about a posthumous award, even though it was deserved. I'm talking about this shit. To me, is best movie contender. It really is. I think so. I loved it. 9.9.
You know, I gotta agree with a lot of that. It is certainly going to get a lot of Oscar nods, especially how thematically kind of similar it is to the Joker in a lot of ways. I personally, I have no issues with the runtime. I think it's really cool that more and more studios and like big budget movies are pushing the envelope with like the length of movie, where it's not just action movie filler shit. Like,
yeah,
everybody knows that a lot of Marvel movies are going to be 2.5 hours long because they got to fill it with they got to fill it with
big set action pieces.
Yeah, big set action pieces. They got to put the money on screen.
Yeah.
Whereas this, like, it's not. There's action, but it's not like this isn't an action movie.
Absolutely.
There's action set pieces that are really nice that complement the movie really well, but it is a detective story. It's very grounded. It feels, in a lot of ways, very small scale up until it doesn't. I never once got bored. I never once. I made sure I peed before the movie, so I was good on that front. And every time every time I thought it was about to wrap up or end, like, they added like another development. There was another plot twist, but I loved it. I was fucking there for it. Some of them came as genuine, like, surprises. It was like, oh shit, like, what, like, the Riddler's grand plan, I didn't see that coming.
Zero,
yeah. That was not where I expected that to go.
That was straight out of the comic books. Zero, yeah. I loved it.
But yeah, I'm very hesitant to call this a perfect movie because I'm sure that there's, upon a rewatch, I will find something that doesn't resonate with me. But my expectations were blown out of the water. This is better than I expected it to be. This is a definitive Batman. Maybe not the definitive Batman for some people, but this is a definitive Batman. This is a absolute Batman story. No other filler bullshit in there. There's no other superheroes, or it's not mucking things up. There's no obnoxious cameos that or references that really take away from it.
Right.
This is just a Batman story, and it's a collection of stories from the comics, which I love. But fucking welcome to the club, Pattinson. Like, he absolutely killed it. Like, he is probably going to be a generation's definitive Batman.
Absolutely. If oh God, fingers crossed, if he comes back, you know, all that.
From what he's saying, like, it sounds like he will. Like,
good.
He's over the, like, he sounds like he's over the moon about playing the character, and like he really liked playing the character. He's talked about in a couple of the interviews that I've seen. He's talked about like some ideas of where they'd like to go in a sequel, and so I'm here for it. I'm here for his Batman. Tentatively, until I see it again, I got to give it a 10. It's along the lines of to me, like a movie like Fury Road or Fight Club or something like that, where it's those are just movies that I can constantly go back to where I think to myself, like, this is subjectively perfect.
Right.
It is subjectively a perfect film to me. So I got to give it a 10.
Oh, well, I want to see when you see it again if the 10 holds or if you find any flaws, and then we can discuss that. That'll be cool as fuck. But
sure.
Yeah, dude, this was good. I mean, this really was, as of right now, this is the best Batman movie, hands down.
It is certainly the best Batman movie for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Affleck still might be my guy for a little while longer, but bar none, this is the best, most true to the character Batman movie.
Absolutely. From the Dark Knight of Vengeance to the Dark Knight of Heroism. That ended with something else. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this spoiler review. We didn't really get into the movie spoiler-wise, but we broke down what we loved about it, and I'm glad you joined us for the ride. Brother Matt, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Yep, and everybody out there, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. I am G1. We out of here. Peace.